He's the world's greatest prison break expert, who's escaped every jail on Earth until someone traps him in a secret prison specifically designed to keep him locked up forever, and no one even knows this prison exists. The story opens inside a Colorado Federal Correctional Facility where Ray Breslin observes guard movements while burning Bible pages and using the ash residue to sketch on his cell wall. His cellmate approaches with intelligence that another inmate plans attacking Ray during tomorrow's yard time. When that moment arrives, Ray strikes preemptively and swiftly dominates two prisoners, demonstrating professional combat skills while inflicting severe injuries upon both opponents. Security personnel immediately apprehend Ray and transport him into solitary isolation, where authorities permit him to retain his Bible. Throughout subsequent days, Ray meticulously documents guard behavioral patterns, including smoking intervals and keypad security protocols. Ray begins manufacturing small spheres using toilet tissue and water, which he conceals inside cardboard tubes. During meal delivery, he extracts a transparent polymer sheet from his milk container. One afternoon, Ray inquires about the current time from a passing guard, then begins counting internally. Outside the facility perimeter, an unidentified woman abandons a vehicle in the parking area, and as she distances herself from it, she activates a remote detonation device, triggering a massive explosion. All security personnel rush to evacuate inmates, only to discover Ray has vanished. Emergency response vehicles arrive to address the blaze, and it becomes apparent Ray is concealed aboard one dressed as a firefighter, utilizing this opportunity to escape in a getaway vehicle operated by his associates Hush and Abigail, who orchestrated the explosion. They drop Ray at a roadside establishment and provide him with a coin, which Ray uses to contact a specific number and simply state the word "Showtime." Shortly afterward, law enforcement surrounds Ray, and he's detained once more, but he remains unconcerned because his contact Lester is already managing the situation. Subsequently, at the detention center, Lester reveals that he and Ray operate for a corporation contracted by government agencies to breach prison facilities and expose vulnerabilities in their security infrastructure. Ray has successfully escaped from 14 institutions and proceeds to explain his methodology for this particular operation. He analyzed the architectural layout and operational routines, identifying an unsecured fire station garage. He deliberately created conflicts to ensure placement in solitary confinement, where he observed the facility was inadequately staffed, and he remained unmonitored whenever guards departed for cigarette breaks. He then composed a coded letter for his team, concealing the designated escape date within encrypted text. He also positioned the polymer sheet on the keypad to capture guard fingerprints and recovered it by concealing it within his Bible. The sheet provided him with 4 numerical digits, so to determine the correct sequence, he employed the paper spheres on the food slot to prevent proper locking, and when guards were absent, he would extend his hand through to test combinations until succeeding. While guards were outside smoking, Ray emerged, reversed security camera footage several hours to mask his absence, then utilized ventilation shafts to reach the fire department precisely before Abigail initiated the blaze. The warden expresses frustration, but authorizes Ray's release. Sometime later in Los Angeles, Ray assists Hush with technical computer difficulties before encountering CIA Representative Jessica, who presents an employment proposition. She explains the CIA has constructed a novel detention facility whose location cannot be disclosed to Ray or his team. But if he successfully escapes from it, they will compensate $5 million instead of the standard $2.5. Ray accepts, despite Abigail and Hush expressing concern, and Jessica furnishes Ray with a cover identity, an explosives terrorist designated Portos. His contact inside the facility will be Warden Marsh, and Ray receives an emergency evacuation code. Several days later in New Orleans, Abigail and Hush remain anxious about insufficient information regarding this facility and persuade Ray to wear a tracking beacon, which they surgically implant into his arm. Ray then positions himself on the street awaiting pickup, only to suddenly be incapacitated by a taser and hurled into a van's rear compartment. As the vehicle departs, masked operatives scan Ray's body and locate the tracking device, so they immediately extract it. Abigail's and Hush's computer instantaneously loses Ray's signal simultaneously as Ray receives a sedative injection. Sometime later, Ray regains consciousness inside a helicopter while still experiencing disorientation. He observes as guard Drake violently assaults another prisoner before stabbing him and ejecting him from the aircraft. Drake then notices Ray has awakened and commands his personnel to sedate him again. Upon Ray's next awakening, he's finally inside the prison, but it differs from anything he's previously encountered. All detention cells are transparent plexiglass cubes suspended in midair, and guards wear black face coverings to conceal their identities. There's also an enormous spherical camera that maneuvers around monitoring all prisoners. Now conscious, Ray is escorted to meet the warden, who is a man named Hobbs. Concerned because this differs from the warden they specified, Ray provides his evacuation code, but Hobbs comprehends nothing and demonstrates no interest. Subsequently, when everyone is released from their cells for exercise period, Ray witnesses how guards demonstrate no hesitation in brutally assaulting anyone who disobeys orders. The prisoners' jumpsuits feature special identification codes, and they're scanned through every checkpoint. At that moment, Hobbs announces Ray's counterfeit identity through the speaker system, as if broadcasting his arrival. After witnessing another man receiving a beating, Ray is approached by several thugs who want to exploit the newcomer, but Ray immediately fractures the leader's hand and strikes him down. Before others can respond, prisoner Emil instructs them to retreat. Emil attempts befriending Ray and explains he previously worked for Mannheim, an influential individual who stole from wealthy individuals to distribute to impoverished communities. Mannheim is a fugitive, but Emil refuses providing Hobbs any information. However, Ray shows no interest in Emil's narrative. Meanwhile, Hobbs reprimands Drake for killing that prisoner since it was a capture for a client, implying numerous people here aren't criminals and simply antagonized someone powerful. It's also revealed he possesses the book Ray authored. Throughout the remainder of the day, Ray continues analyzing the prison architecture and inmate behavior patterns, like noticing Muslim prisoners who maintain prayer even without seeing sunset. Emil notices Ray observes everything and mentions he's the person to approach for favors, so Ray explains he needs accessing the isolation section. Eager to assist, Emil immediately strikes him, causing him to fall. But when Ray retaliates, Emil merely laughs. Ray then begins hitting harder, and an authentic fight develops until guards arrive to drag Ray and Emil toward the isolation section. The isolation chambers are miniature metal containers with blinding lights on sides which torture prisoners with intolerable heat. Ray exerts maximum effort to endure the suffering and inspects the container for anything usable to escape. Several days later, Dr. Kyrie arrives to examine Ray's health, and Ray attempts extracting information from him, but Kyrie remains silent. Upon departing, Kyrie is confronted by Drake, who demands knowing their conversation. Kyrie lies, which indicates to Ray he may possess a conscience after all. Afterward, Emil and Ray are returned to the general population area, where Ray begins creating a drawing on the table, while informing Emil he'll require a metal piece, promising to extract Emil as well if he assists. Next, Emil requests speaking with Hobbs, and pretends he'll finally reveal Mannheim's location. He requests paper to draw a map, only to create a highly offensive drawing instead. An enraged Hobbs makes his men restrain Emil for waterboarding, and after enduring extensive pain, Emil utilizes the opportunity to steal a metal drain cover. Subsequently, in the common area, Emil provides the cover to Ray, who reveals his authentic identity and how he arrived there. By observing the layout, Ray deduces this prison was constructed underground, and there's something beneath the box's hatch that should permit escape. Since the location is subterranean, there's moisture in atmosphere that has caused steel rivets to corrode, so Ray will apply toothpaste and heat with the metal cover to make the rivets fracture. First, they need returning to isolation again, so Emil approaches Javed and initiates a fight by insulting his mother. Javed's Muslim group defends him, and after concealing bread in his clothes, Ray joins the fight, but they only exchange several hits before guards arrive to subdue everyone with electrical tasers. Once everyone returns to the heat containers, Ray begins working on the process. It's extremely difficult to work because of the heat, and his hands begin bleeding, so whenever he creates excessive noise, Emil masks it by shouting his pain. Eventually, Ray succeeds in removing all rivets and covers the security camera with the bread before knocking on the wall to signal Emil. At that moment, Emil begins crying and shouting frantically in German, capturing all guards' attention on him. Ray utilizes the opportunity to finally open the hatch and begins descending a ladder until landing on a corridor. The door is secured, so he decides using pipes to begin climbing upward, only to accidentally detach electrical cables and rupture several pipes during the process. Ray simply continues until locating another hatch, which he opens to discover the shocking truth. This prison is inside an oil tanker vessel in the middle of the ocean. Suddenly, he notices guards nearby, so he quickly conceals himself and returns into the hatch to climb down. The leaking water forces him away, and he ends up falling, but the corridor is flooding, so he lands safely in the water. As the containers slowly flood too, an alarm begins ringing, and guards rush to extract prisoners from isolation. Ray swims as rapidly as possible, and after considerable effort to move against the water pressure on the stairs, he returns to his container precisely before guards arrive for him. Meanwhile, Abigail and Hush inform Lester that Jessica's payment has been frozen, but Lester tells them he's already communicated with her and everything proceeds well. After the water is managed, Hobbs finds the rivets in Ray's container and begins growing suspicious. He makes a call that reveals Lester has been communicating with him throughout, and Lester tells Hobbs Ray's authentic identity. Lester asks him to detain Ray permanently, and then asks Hobbs for information on Mannheim because financial institutions worldwide want his capture. Hobbs explains Emil may be working with Ray, so Lester grants him permission to break Ray as well. Subsequently, in the evening, Ray attempts sleeping, but a guard continuously taps on his wall to maintain him awake, and he beats him during morning as a wake-up call. This begins occurring daily, and Ray's body begins getting so weakened that he can barely move. Emil provides as many motivational talks as possible to maintain Ray's spirit, and Ray ends up sharing a story. He previously worked as a prosecutor and a criminal he convicted one day escaped to kill his family for revenge. The drawing Ray is creating is the final memory of his child. Since then, he ensures criminals won't escape ever again. Throughout the next few days, Ray studies the guards' routine to find any useful habits, beginning to assign names to them by differencing them through body shapes. To begin making a plan, he first needs knowing their location, but there were no landmarks when he went outside. One day during lunch, Emil discreetly stabs Ray, who is taken to Kyrie's office for stitches. Ray suddenly pretends he's experiencing great pain and falls, using the opportunity to steal several things from a tray. He also reminds Kyrie of his oath, but the doctor still ignores his questions. When Ray returns to the common area, Emil gives him a pen and a prisoner's glasses. Concealing his hands beneath the table, Ray constructs a sextant, which should help them determine their location based on the stars. Drake and Hobbs notice unusual movements on the security camera, so Hobbs asks to see Ray. Fortunately, he conceals the tool before he's dragged away to a new section, where Hobbs tells him he knows his identity and admits he used his book to design this facility. Hobbs is prepared to detain him there permanently, so Ray lies and says he can obtain information on Monheim from Emil. Ray is then returned to the common area and tells Emil of the new plan. Subsequently, while Ray is providing false information to Hobbs, Emil approaches Javd and gives him the sextant, promising to help him escape as well if he assists them. Afterward, Javd contacts Hobbs and tells him the others are planning to escape, so Hobbs agrees to purchase his information by letting him pray in open air as his beliefs demand. This is all part of the plan, and that night in his new cell, Javd uses the sextant to obtain the coordinates of their location. The next day, over lunch, Javd gives his notes to Ray, who puts it together with things like the weather he felt when outside, the date mentioned by a newcomer, and the direction water flows down in the toilet to conclude they're near the coast of Morocco. Next, Ray swallows laundry powder to get sick and be sent to Kyrie's office, where he tells the doctor to go to Hobbs's office and read a passage on a particular page in a certain book. After some hesitation, Kyrie checks the book and finds the Hippocratic Oath. The next day, Kyrie asks guards to bring Ray to his office for a checkup. He wonders how Kyrie knew the exact page, and Ray explains he wrote it, which confirms his identity, and finally convinces Kyrie to help. Afterward, Ray gives Hobbs a false location to find Monheim, so they have 24 hours to escape before Hobbs catches on. As part of the plan, Javed also meets with Hobbs and tells him about the incoming escape, so Hobbs rushes to check and notices Ray tapping on his cell wall. Recognizing Morse code, they discover a message about a plan to riot in Block C during transfer. Meanwhile, Kyrie is sending a coded email to request help. After most guards are sent to Block C, Javed starts a riot in the common area, which soon becomes absolute chaos. As Hobbs tries to make his men change areas quickly, Ray, Emil, and Javed rush to knock down the few guards around them and steal their weapons. The incoming guards start subduing prisoners, but also throw a gas bomb, allowing the trio to sneak away unnoticed. Ray explains they only have 11 minutes to meet with the rescuers who are approaching in a helicopter. They rush upstairs and shoot a door open before Ray finds a security camera, but since the cameras are connected, Ray messes with this one to disable them all. At that moment, Hobbs activates lockdown protocol, so when the trio is about to get out, they find the exit locked. The trio starts wandering around looking for another exit, and soon they're surrounded by guards who open fire. They immediately shoot back and quickly bring down all the men, but Javd gets wounded in the process. More guards are coming, so Emil and Ray drag Javd as they run to hide behind another door. Ray realizes they were found by a motion detector, so he disables it, while a furious Hobbs taunts him through the speakers. Then Ray decides he must find the engine room to shut down the power, so he gives his gun to Javd and tells him and Emil to take the stairs. After Ray leaves, Javd admits he won't make it, so he takes Emil's gun too and asks him to go on without him. Soon after Emil also leaves, Javd is surrounded by guards, and he bravely makes sure to shoot all of them down before he's brought down by a hidden shooter. When Hobbs finds him, Javed says his last words to his god before he's killed. Meanwhile, Drake goes after Ray in the engine room. Ray jumps around and runs to dodge Drake's bullets, then he manages to surprise him from behind. In the struggle, Drake loses his gun, but he takes out a knife, and a hand-to-hand fight ensues. After exchanging several hits, Drake chokes Ray for several seconds before starting to kick him down, so Ray grabs his leg to overpower him and get the fighting going again. Both men steal several tools to use as weapons, and after exchanging several hits, Ray pushes Drake down the stairs, killing him. Afterward, Ray rushes to the control panel, knocks out the technician, and turns off the ship's generators. All lights go out in the ship, and the doors open, allowing Emil to come out. At that moment, a helicopter opens fire on the ship before landing on the deck, where several men come out to start a gunfight with the guards. Emil sneaks around while avoiding bullets and makes it to the chopper where one of the soldiers has been shot down. The pilot wants to take off, but Emil asks him to wait for Ray before he takes over a machine gun to join the fight, killing dozens of guards in seconds. In the engine room, Hobbs is looking for Ray, who is hiding inside a water tank. At that moment, the guards turn the ship's systems back on, so Emil has no choice but to leave with his guys in the helicopter. Ray's tank starts filling with water, but before he can drown, the tank automatically flushes itself and expels Ray into the ocean. He immediately swims to the surface, and Emil throws a ladder down for him, but as he climbs up, Hobbs and the guards open fire on them. Emil gives Ray a gun, and they both fire back until Emil gets wounded in the shoulder. Hobbs keeps missing his moving target, and Ray uses the chance to shoot several oil tanks, causing a big explosion that kills Hobbs. Several hours later, the helicopter drops the duo on the Moroccan beach, where they're picked up by Jessica. It turns out Emil is Monheim, and Jessica is his daughter, so she hired Ray to get her dad out of prison. She also confirms that Lester is dirty and betrayed her too. Sometime later, Ray reunites with Abigail, who has acquired information on Lester. He had been offered to be CEO of the prison program if Ray was unable to get out. Now Lester is trying to get away, but Hush is waiting for him in his car and quickly knocks him out. When Lester wakes up, he discovers the car is inside a box on top of a ship in the middle of the ocean. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and like the video.